The physics of home invasion is simple kinetic energy. A battering ram or a size 12 boot transfers force into your door frame, shattering the deadbolt casing in less than 1 second. The confiscation unit, the starving mob, or the local militia enters the hallway with a single biological imperative. Your pantry is already gone. The starving human brain operates on pattern recognition, scanning specifically for the shapes of cans, the colors of labels, and the familiar geometry of kitchen storage. If you have stored your calories in the kitchen cabinets, the basement shelving units, or the hall closet, you have not prepared for survival. You have merely aggregated resources for the strongest aggressor. The only food you own is the food the looting party cannot physically see. If you understand that concealment is more critical than caliber, confirm your presence. Leave a signal in the comments if you are willing to destroy your own walls to survive. The modern apartment is not a fortress, but it is a complex assembly of hollow volumes and forgotten voids. Architects and engineers design residential structures with massive amounts of wasted cubic footage to accommodate wiring, plumbing, and HVAC systems. This is dead space. The average search team, whether official government requisition officers or opportunistic raiders, operates under extreme adrenaline and time compression. The search team creates a mental map of containers and open spaces. They tear open cupboards, rip drawers out of sliding tracks, and overturn mattresses because these are low-effort, high-probability calorie sources. You must exploit the psychological blindness of the aggressor. To the frantic intruder, a wall is a solid boundary, not a storage container. A ventilation grill is a dirty infrastructure component, not a vault. By placing your calorie density inside the architectural structure itself, you move your resources from the container category to the infrastructure category. The eye slides right past the infrastructure. Secret spot 1 is the stud bay void. Standard residential construction in North America and Europe utilizes timber or metal framing spaced 16 inches on center. This construction method creates a vertical cavity roughly 14 inches wide and 3 inches deep between every single stud in your apartment walls. This is the invisible calorie bank. A single stud bay, floor to ceiling, contains enough cubic volume to store 40 pounds of freeze-dried vacuum-sealed rice or beans. The looting party will slash your sofa cushions. The looting party will empty your refrigerator. The looting party will never take a sledgehammer to a pristine, painted drywall surface in a hallway. To utilize this space, you must surgically remove a section of drywall behind a piece of heavy, semi-permanent furniture, such as a tall bookshelf or a wardrobe. Do not remove the furniture during the crisis. The furniture acts as the first layer of visual denial. The drywall patch acts as the second layer of physical denial. The stud bay itself is the vault. You must line this cavity with mylar barriers to prevent moisture transfer from the building envelope, as gypsum board is hydrophilic and will wick moisture into your food supply. Mold is as dangerous as the looter. Seal the food in flat, vacuum-packed bricks rather than round buckets to maximize the geometry of the void. Secret spot 2 is the false return air vent. HVAC systems are psychologically repulsive to the average human. The accumulation of gray dust, the industrial appearance, and the association with filtration make ventilation grills a non-target for the searching eye. The confiscation team is looking for the bright red label of a tomato soup can, not the gray steel of a duct. You can purchase standard HVAC return grills at any hardware supply depot. Cut a hole in the drywall between 2 studs, identical to the stud bay void method, but do not patch the drywall. Screw the ventilation grill directly over the hole. This creates a visual lie. To the observer, this is a functional part of the building's climate control system. Behind the grill, you have a 14-inch by 20-inch cache space that can hold 12,000 calories of high-density rations. To make the deception absolute, glue a strip of black landscape fabric or darker screen material behind the louvers of the grill. This prevents the flashlight beam of the searcher from reflecting off the mylar food bags inside. The searcher will shine a light, see darkness and dust, and move on to your bedroom closet. Boredom is your security system. If the intruder looks at the object and feels bored, the object is safe. Secret spot 3 is the toe kick gap. Kitchen cabinetry is built on a pedestal system to elevate the doors off the floor. This creates a continuous hollow tunnel running underneath your entire kitchen counter assembly, usually 4 inches high and 24 inches deep. This is the structural shadow. Most homeowners unknowingly nail a decorative strip of plywood, called a toe kick, across the front of this gap. The confiscation unit will rip the doors off your upper cabinets. The confiscation unit will dump your silverware drawers on the floor. The confiscation unit will not lie on their stomach to pry off a baseboard trim piece that appears to be structurally integral to the cabinetry. You can modify this toe kick to be removable by using heavy-duty magnetic latches or pressure clips. Behind this strip lies nearly 10 cubic feet of storage space in a standard galley kitchen. This is enough volume to store 3 months of canned proteins or water rations. Because this space is on the concrete slab or subfloor, it is the coolest thermal point in the apartment, making it ideal for temperature-sensitive item preservation. Thermodynamics favors the prepared. The heat rises to the ceiling, where the smoke accumulates. The cool air settles on the floor, where your calories are hidden. Visual concealment is a catastrophic failure if you ignore the physics of olfactory diffusion. The starving human organism undergoes a sensory adaptation where the olfactory bulb becomes hypersensitive to the specific volatile organic compounds released by fats, sugars, and proteins. A standard polyethylene grocery bag, or a consumer-grade plastic tote, is permeable on a molecular level. Over a period of weeks, the microscopic pores in the plastic allow the scent molecules of your rice, jerky, or spices to migrate through the barrier and saturate the gypsum board of your false wall. The wall itself begins to smell like food. The looter does not need to see the cache to find the cache. The looter only needs to lean against the drywall and inhale the faint chemical signature of your calories. You must utilize aluminized mylar bags with a minimum thickness of 5 mils to create a true hermetic barrier against gas exchange. You must seal these bags with a high-temperature impulse sealer, not a household iron, to fuse the layers into a single continuous material. Inside the bag, you must include a ferrous oxide oxygen absorber to chemically strip the atmosphere of the oxidizing agents that cause food degradation and odor production. If you do not control the atmosphere betrays you. The search dog and the desperate neighbor operate on the same biological hardware, and that hardware is designed to track invisible chemical trails to their source. The final layer of your defense is not the wall, but the psychology of the intruder. A completely empty apartment triggers an immediate escalation of violence in the aggressor. If the confiscation team kicks in your door and finds bare cupboards, an empty refrigerator, and no visible resources, the team assumes you are a hoarder who has successfully hidden the assets. The absence of evidence is evidence of concealment. The frustrated searcher will begin to destroy the infrastructure of the room, smashing the drywall with crowbars and ripping up the flooring in a rage of denial. You must construct a sacrificial pantry to satisfy the looting algorithm. You must leave 20% of your lowest value calories in the standard expected locations. Place the expired canned corn, the heavy bags of cheap white flour, and the half-empty boxes of pasta in the kitchen cabinets where the searcher expects to find them. You are manipulating the dopamine reward system of the intruder's brain. When the looter finds the sacrificial pantry, the brain releases a chemical signal that the hunt is successful and the resource extraction is complete. The looter fills the backpack with your decoy calories, feels a sense of victory, and leaves the apartment without testing the tensile strength of your ventilation grills. You must lose the battle to survive the war. You are purchasing the structural integrity of your secret cache with the price of a few pounds of cheap carbohydrates. The architecture of the modern city is a trap disguised as a habitat. You have learned to utilize the voids, the gaps, and the hollow spaces of your apartment to extend your caloric timeline. You have turned the drywall and the ductwork into a life support system that operates independently of the supply chain. But you must understand that hiding food in an apartment is a temporary, tactical delay, not a strategic solution. The apartment building itself is a machine that requires a constant input of electricity, water, and sewage management to remain habitable. When the grid fails, the pumps stop, and the vertical stack of concrete boxes becomes a sanitary nightmare. The hidden calorie is a timer, not a savior. The food you have concealed in the stud bays and the toe kicks provides you with the only currency that matters in a collapse: time. It gives you the time to assess the degradation of the city without the desperate fog of hunger clouding your judgment. It gives you the calories required to haul your gear down 10 flights of stairs when the time comes to abandon the structure. Do not fall in love with your fortress. The walls you are hiding behind are the same walls that will eventually become your cage. The ultimate goal of the survivalist is not to die with a full stomach in a dark room, but to have the energy to walk out of the dying city while others are still breaking into empty cupboards. Be the ghost that leaves no trace. Be the ghost that leaves no trace. The visual spectrum is only the first layer of detection you must defeat to secure your caloric lifeline. The acoustic signature of your apartment will betray you. A professional search team or an experienced scavenger does not just look at the walls. The scavenger listens to the walls. The human ear is highly attuned to the resonant frequency of hollow structures versus the dull thud of a packed volume. When the confiscation officer drags a baton or a rifle butt along the surface of your hallway drywall, the officer is listening for the sudden change in pitch that indicates a modification to the internal density. A standard hollow stud bay resonates like a drum. A stud bay packed with 40 pounds of freeze-dried beans absorbs the kinetic energy of the impact and produces a dead, solid sound. This density differential is a beacon. If the officer knocks on the wall at 3 distinct points and hears hollow, solid, hollow, the officer knows exactly where to swing the sledgehammer. You must acoustically camouflage the void. To defeat the percussion test, you must pack the remaining air gap in your stud bay with sound-dampening material that mimics the resonance of the surrounding empty bays. Do not pack the food bricks tight against the drywall face. Leave a 1-inch air gap between the food and the gypsum board, and fill this gap with loosely packed fiberglass insulation or acoustic foam. This buffer layer decouples the mass of the food from the surface of the wall. When the intruder strikes the wall, the vibration travels through the drywall, dissipates into the soft foam, and never reaches the dense mass of the food bricks. The sound remains consistent, and the secret remains safe. You must respect the thermodynamics of the building envelope, or the physics of condensation will destroy your stockpile. The exterior walls of your apartment are the front line of a thermal war between the freezing outside air and the heated interior space. This temperature differential creates a dew point inside the wall cavity itself. If you pack a stud bay on an exterior-facing wall with dense food bricks, you alter the thermal conductivity of that section of the structure. The food mass acts as a thermal bridge, conducting the cold from the brick facade directly into the warm void. Moisture is the inevitable result. Water vapor from your breath and your cooking migrates through the drywall and condenses on the cold surface of your mylar bags. This liquid water cannot evaporate because you have filled the void with plastic. The water accumulates at the bottom plate of the wall, saturating the wood and the paper backing of the gypsum. Black mold begins to consume your fortress from the inside out. The colony grows silently for months, releasing toxic spores into your sleeping area and rotting the structural integrity of the wall. When the sheetrock finally crumbles from the rot, your hidden food spills out onto the floor for the world to see. Never use an exterior wall for concealment. You must only utilize the partition walls that separate rooms within your own unit or the party walls that separate your unit from a heated hallway. The temperature on both sides of these internal walls is stable. Thermal equilibrium prevents condensation. Physics does not care about your hunger. The final vector of infiltration is biological, not human. The apartment building is a living ecosystem of pests that have co-evolved to exploit human food storage. The cockroach, the silverfish, and the mouse can detect the presence of starch and protein through barriers that are impermeable to the human eye. The glue on the cardboard boxes of your freeze-dried meals is a food source for insects. The paper labels on your cans are nesting material for rodents. If you place untreated cardboard or paper inside a wall void, you are inviting a colonization event. You are building a city for the pests. The frantic scratching of a rat inside your wall will alert the human intruder to the presence of something valuable. The scent of a cockroach infestation will draw the attention of the hygiene inspection team. You must strip all store-bought packaging before placing any item into the dead space. Remove the cardboard boxes. Soak the cans to remove the paper labels and write the contents on the metal with a permanent marker. Wipe down every Mylar bag with a solution of bleach and water to remove the microscopic food residue left by the factory packaging machine. Dust the bottom of the wall cavity with food-grade diatomaceous earth before you load the cache. This microscopic silica powder shreds the exoskeleton of any insect that attempts to traverse the void to reach your supplies. You must act as the apex predator of your own microenvironment. If you allow the lower-order scavengers to thrive, you will eventually be discovered by the higher-order scavengers. The illusion of safety is the most dangerous component of the strategy. You have now modified the structure of your apartment to hold 3 months of calories. You have defeated the visual search, the olfactory search, and the acoustic search. But you have created a new vulnerability: structural overload. Residential floors are designed to support a live load of 40 pounds per square foot. A single stud bay filled with dense canned goods or water bladders concentrates hundreds of pounds of static load onto a single linear foot of the floor joist. If you fill every available void in a single room with high-density rations, you risk shearing the floor joists or cracking the ceiling of the unit below you. A cracked ceiling is a structural red flag to the building superintendent or the maintenance engineer. Gravity is a relentless auditor. You must distribute the weight of your cache evenly across the entire footprint of the apartment. Do not concentrate your wealth in one room. Spread the load between the bedroom partition walls, the kitchen toe kicks, and the hallway return vents. Calculate the total weight of your storage and ensure it does not exceed the engineering limits of the timber framing. If the floor begins to sag, the doors will jam in their frames. A jammed door tells the intruder that the room is under stress. The building must appear unchanged. The geometry of the room must remain perfectly square and level. Any deviation from the norm is a signal that the environment has been manipulated. Operational security is a binary state. The system is either zero knowledge or it is compromised. There is no partial secrecy in a high-density living environment. If a single member of your immediate household discusses the existence of the stud bay void or the toe kick gap with a friend, a coworker, or an extended family member, the cache is already lost. Information travels faster than hunger. The human brain under caloric stress loses the ability to maintain long-term strategic secrets. The child will trade the information for social status. The spouse will trade the information for perceived community safety. You must construct the concealment architecture alone. You must load the calorie density into the voids during the hours of minimum building activity, specifically between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. The sound of a drywall saw cutting into gypsum board is a unique acoustic frequency that penetrates floor slabs. The sight of white gypsum dust on your clothing in the elevator is a visual flag to the observant neighbor. Paranoia is a survival trait. Clean every surface 3 times. Vacuum the dust immediately. Do not let the physical evidence of your construction project become the narrative of your demise. Retrieving the calorie is more dangerous than storing the calorie. You have successfully hidden the food, but you have not solved the problem of consumption. The act of cooking releases volatile organic compounds that signal the presence of resources to every biological entity on the floor. The smell of boiling rice is a summons. If you use a standard open-flame stove or a camping burner to reconstitute your freeze-dried meals, the aroma will travel through the passive ventilation shafts and under the door gaps. The starving neighbor will detect the scent of carbohydrates before the water reaches a boil. You must utilize the thermal retention method to process your food without an olfactory signature. Bring the water to a rolling boil rapidly in a sealed vessel. Pour the water immediately into the Mylar food bag. Seal the bag and place the bag inside a high-quality vacuum-insulated flask or wrap the bag in dense wool blankets. Trapped heat cooks without odor. The thermal mass of the water will denature the proteins and rehydrate the starches over a period of 20 minutes without releasing a single molecule of scent into the atmosphere. You must consume the food in the center of the room, away from the windows and the hallway door. Disposal of the waste packaging is a critical failure point. You cannot throw the empty Mylar bag into the building's trash chute. The search team analyzes the refuse stream to identify targets. You must wash the bag, cut the bag into unrecognizable strips, and disperse the pieces into the sewage system or bury the pieces in the soil of a potted plant. Leave no artifacts. The greatest threat to the survivalist is the sunk cost fallacy. The human mind assigns excessive value to assets that required significant effort to acquire and conceal. You have spent hundreds of hours modifying your apartment and thousands of dollars stocking the voids. This investment creates a psychological gravity well that tethers you to the location. The apartment is a tomb. The concrete structure is a machine that relies on a functioning municipal grid to remove human waste and supply potable water. When the pumps fail, the vertical sewage stack will back up into the lower units. When the grid fails, the elevator shafts become chimneys that draw smoke and toxic fumes into the upper units. If you refuse to leave the apartment because you are guarding a wall full of beans, you will die of dysentery or smoke inhalation. The hidden food is not a reason to stay. The hidden food is a battery. It is a concentrated energy source designed to power your biological system during the extraction phase. You must be psychologically prepared to abandon 90% of your cash at a moment's notice. Mobility is the only true defense. The moment the sanitation system collapses, the apartment is no longer a shelter. It is a biological hazard zone. You must consume the highest density calories, load your pack with the portable rations, and walk away from the drywall you so carefully patched. Do not look back at the wall. The wall has served its purpose. The final warning involves the concept of the gray man. Your apartment door must look exactly like the door of the looting victim next to you. If you reinforce your door with steel bars, you are announcing that there is something valuable inside. If you install visible cameras, you are announcing that you have resources to protect. The most secure door is the door that looks already broken. Scuff the paint, leave a pile of trash in the hallway outside your unit, remove the welcome mat. Make the exterior of your sanctuary project an aura of poverty and abandonment. Camouflage is not green paint. Camouflage is social conformity. If the building is starving, you must appear to be starving. You must lose weight. You must wear dirty clothes. You must complain about the lack of food to your neighbors while you have 50 pounds of rice in your bedroom wall. Deception is not a moral failing in a collapse scenario. Deception is a thermal layer that insulates you from the friction of a dying society. Be the nothing. Your independence is an illusion maintained by a fragile lattice of copper wire and pressurized PVC pipe. You have drilled into the studs, you have hidden the calories behind the toe kicks, and you have learned to breathe without sound. But you are still a tenant in a structure designed for dependency. The modern apartment building is a biological farm for human labor. It is constructed to extract rent, utility payments, and compliance from the occupants in exchange for climate control and waste removal. When the grid collapses, the building ceases to be a habitat and becomes a vertical coffin. The hidden food you have so carefully curated is not a lifestyle. It is severance pay. It is the final transaction you will make with a system that has already failed you. The moment you consume the last calorie from the wall void, you are no longer a resident. You are a trespasser in a dead civilization. Do not confuse comfort with survival. The true survivalist understands that the apartment is a temporary camp, not a permanent home. The drywall is not shelter. It is merely a convenient geometry to store energy for the departure. The ultimate goal is not to hide inside the box until the lights come back on. The lights are never coming back on. The ultimate goal is to use the energy stored in the walls to propel yourself out of the city and into a terrifying, unknown autonomy. The food buys you the strength to walk away. It buys you the clarity to make the decision that the neighbors are too weak to make. It buys you the silence to listen while the rest of the floor screams. You are not saving for a rainy day. You are saving for the end of the weather report. Look at your wall right now. Imagine the hollow space behind the paint. Imagine the cold air moving through the stud bay. That space is empty. Every day you leave that space empty is a day you are betting your life on the continuity of the supply chain. Every can of beans you do not buy is a vote of confidence in a system that views you as a statistic. Fill the void. Do it silently. Do it alone. And when the time comes, eat the wall and leave the ruin behind.